On this week's show, we're discussing Marvel's 1943 Rise of Hydra, the PlayStation Pro is official and it's coming, reviews for Rise of the Ronin, Peach's Showtime, and Dragon's Dogma with some microtransaction conspiracy, and why Game Pass just got a whole lot sweeter. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. Just search out GamerGuild Podcast and you'll find us right there. Richie, we've got a great show lined up for our viewers and listeners this week, talking about loads of juicy gaming topics. But before we get into it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you are kept in the loop with all the great content we do here on the channel, such as this very show, our weekly live streams and Let's Plays where we look back, we look forward, we play all sorts of games from across the atmosphere. And this past week, Richie, we went back in time, 9 years in fact, in terms of video games. We went a lot further back in terms of the history to play The Order 1886 for a 9-year retrospective look back at a classic. How were you enjoying the first 3 hours that we played? How do you find it?
It's as good as I remember.
So good, right?
Yeah,
so good. I haven't stopped thinking about it since we paused. It's almost a disappointment we have to wait another week to play like the second half of it. It ended on quite a cliffhanger. For those who haven't played The Order, it's an exclusive PlayStation game from back in 2015 on the PS4, made by developers Ready at Dawn. Unfortunately, are now owned by Meta, so they're cranking around VR titles. But yeah, The Order 1886, it's basically like an alternate history, Knights of the Round Table, fighting werewolves in a steampunk-inspired world, third person, action adventure, I would say, but very, very narrative heavy. Very linear narrative. But yeah, again, I think the biggest thing that surprised us the whole playthrough was just 9 years on, this game looks better than half the stuff I've played in the last several years. Still to this day, like the polish and just the detail is unsurpassed by a lot of game devs, which is crazy to think. Just Ready at Dawn out there smashed it, and now they're making VR titles.
Yeah, I think because it is it's a fairly short story. I think it's maybe 5 or 6 hours in total, and there's no side content. Mm-hmm. I think what they've done is they've focused on the quality of the presentation, rather than having to tackle like a massive open world and have 100 hours of content, which is going to make it a lot more difficult. Because we look at Ubisoft, you look at, say, Assassin's Creed, the key characters always look amazing. NPCs look kind of crappy, and you can tell it's like, well, they haven't where the time's been spent. You know they can get that quality because you can see it in the game, but time that just drops off a little bit. Where The Order, it's got that level of polish throughout the entire experience. Yeah,
so good. £12 I think on the PlayStation Store right now. If you've not played it, definitely go check it out. I am surprised it's not part of PlayStation Plus, with it being an exclusive and an old exclusive at that. But it might be like a second party contract deal. That means.
We talked about that bit during the live stream, where it's like we don't really know with something like this where the rights lie, with it being a Sony published title but made by a developer who's no longer associated with Sony. Mm-hmm. It's like what's going on there? You might get a VR version on Meta.
Well,
that'd be cool though. That genuinely would be awesome.
It would. I'd very much doubt. I do believe the rights lie with Sony, because I don't think Sony publish games. The same with like kind of Helldivers. Is I know Arrowhead make Helldivers, but I'd imagine Sony probably have the first dibs right on like making a sequel, even if Arrowhead disappeared elsewhere. But again, time will tell. This is one of those I'm hoping is like it's garnered such a cult classic following that we do see a sequel in some way, shape, or form. Or even just, I think we said during the stream, a remaster. Like, even though not that it really needs it, but just a PS5 version running a little bit faster.
Well, I think it's limited to 30 frames per second, which doesn't feel bad when you play it. It might feel a bit jarring if you went from something really polished at like 120 frames per second then straight into that. But if you haven't done that, you're probably okay. So if a PS5 remaster where what we're going to do is we're just going to up-res it so we can play it all the way up to native 4K, and we're going to get you running at minimum 60 frames per second. It could just breathe some life into it, and I think it's just ripe for either sequel or adaptation into a different media.
Absolutely, yeah, it's ripe for the picking, and it's going back to that kind of era. It's such an exciting time in history. I think we've said about like explorers, inventors, just the way the world was back then. It was a very different time, and playing the Order off the back of me playing Banishers, which is also available on the channel now. So I'm on a platinum trophy run, Richie, for Banishers Ghost of New Eden. I've got one trophy left to do. I've stacked it, so it's just one more playthrough for the alternate ending. And I thought, you know what, I'll do it on stream for our members, so our guild heroes out there, those who subscribe to the channel from as little as 99p. Channel members, they get it probably a week, maybe 2 weeks early. I've already got two 3-odd hour videos up already on the channel. I'm a good chunk into the game already. Very linear. I'm playing it very linear. So if you're wanting all the side quests and the side stories and the exploration, I ain't doing that. I'm skipping notes. I'm skipping out dialogue choices, which isn't the way to enjoy the game. But if you want a linear storytelling of the Banishers Ghost of New Eden, a lot of people actually showed up in the chat saying they'd never heard of the game. Which goes back to you and Rob, though, saying like the marketing on it was non-existent, which is such a shame. So hopefully this has got a slow burn. I can see it going on a Game Pass or something, probably by summer. I don't think it's got
Game
many
Pass,
legs.
PlayStation Plus. I think that's where it might find its real legs.
Yeah,
its audience.
And it is Focus Entertainment who tend to have a lot of deals with Game Pass. We'll actually talk about it later on in the news when we get to it.
Yeah, it's developed by Dontnod, isn't it?
Yeah, Life is Strange, folks. And you can totally tell, like, the dialogue options. And again, playing through it the second time, it's given me an even better appreciation for how rich the character development is, like, even in the early few chapters. So definitely recommend it. I've said time and time again, you'll love this once you get like time on your docket to actually get round to it. Yeah. So there's 2 episodes of that up now for members. We played the Order 886. We'll be back this Thursday to no doubt wrap up on the Order 886. You've still got time to go check that out. But yeah, thank you to everyone who does follow us. Thank you to everyone who likes and subscribes, and our guild heroes especially. If you want to join and be a guild hero to get early access to this very show, early access to some of our live streams and video content, click join below. From as little as 99p, you can support me, Richie, and Rob, who we should point out isn't with us this week. He's got some work-related stuff that's keeping him very, very busy. So he'll be back on next week's show, no doubt.
Working on a Saturday.
I know, the toils of being self-employed, that can happen sometimes, but we'll be back playing games and talking about it. We also have a wonderful, vibrant Discord. If you are enjoying the content and the conversation we have on the show, there's an absolute ton of amazing people who are always talking video games, dropping interesting things in about just anything variety. Did you see it all kicking off on the Xbox Discord thread this week about one of our good members, Al Davis, was creating xCloud touchscreen overlays for pretty much every game that Xbox put out, and now everyone's giving him shit about it, saying like, why isn't there one for this? Why isn't it? Like, jovially, it's hit that point where people know he's such a pro Xbox related things. They're like, come on, get on it, come on, Al, you're slacking.
He's done music for our channel. I think he did the X-Pass thing, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He's an amazing, talented bloke. Yeah. So go check out his content, but also check out the Discord, because there's so many people in there joking, having a good bit of banter, mature gaming banter as well. There's no dodgy shit goes on over there in our good old Discord server, Richie. And then finally, I do want to point out, merchandise store still up. You mentioned it on this week's live stream. I've purchased my GamerGuild hoodie with the colour inlay that I've been having my eyes on for quite some time. Very comfortable. It's a slightly thinner hoodie actually, so as we head into summer spring season, the transition, enjoying it. It's like quite a light hoodie, which is perfect for this time of year. But the reason I mention that is because there is another sale coming up. So if you've got eyes on any merchandise, hats, t-shirts, gloves, whatever it may be, there's another 20% sale coming between the 2nd and the 6th of April. So if you're thinking of something, hold out. Don't spend your money now. Hold off till April. And then, go get yourself something. Get yourself a mug, get yourself a hoodie, get yourself a t-shirt. And there's sportswear in there now. Like I said, you could get yourself an undershirt running jersey or top for the summer months if you're going out for a jog, getting fit, keeping exercise in the sun. Why not do it with our
brand bikini body ready for your summer holiday?
Yeah, there's no bikinis. There might be swim shorts. I'm not sure. Yeah. There's something for everybody either way. Go check it out. And thank you very much for all your support here on the channel. Richie, as I said, we've got a busy week. So let's dig into it. If you could introduce us to the
graciously gathered GamerGuild Gazette, aka the news.
The news. And of course, every week, the news is brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes. So thank you for your added support and sponsoring the news. In lead, I see you in the comments typing the news right now. I'm watching you. Fingers on the keyboard. Story number 1. Randomly, an Unreal event showcase that just kind of came out of nowhere. We got a trailer reveal for Marvel's 1943 Rise of Hydra. We know about this game. We've knew about this game for quite some time now. It's Amy Hennig which is the famous director-writer for the Uncharted 1 through 3 series before Neil Druckmann started to get involved and take over for Naughty Dog. So acclaimed writing. Captain America and Black Panther set in 1943, Richie. They're going to take on seemingly Hydra. We got a trailer which showcased quite a lot. Skydance New Media, of course, making this one. So it's an unknown studio. But the talent is there clearly to see, showcasing the Unreal Engine, which was part of it essentially. What are your first thoughts on the trailer and the game so far? We actually now have, I guess, context for what it's going to look like. Not gameplay though, but story-wise.
The story has got me very, very intrigued. I'm in for the story. So unless the gameplay is absolutely abysmal, it's a purchase for me.
It's got to be gameplay-wise. It's got to be parkour traversal with Black Panther. And then I'm guessing kind of like a brute approach with Captain America and his shield, because you are going to play. They've confirmed 4 protagonists, so it's these 2, a lady who I don't know anything about, and one of the Howling Commandos, not Dum Dum Dugan, but one of the other ones. I can't see it being
bad, to be honest. The gameplay, and the thing is, because it's not gameplay centered, even if the gameplay is kind of just by the numbers, it could still be a great game if the story lands.
Yeah, reading from the kind of Epic's MetaHuman creator, which is what they're using about like why they can get the detail in the face and the lighting. Working with MetaHuman Process, we're able to honor our amazing actors' performances and faithfully transform them into the equally powerful digital performances. You can check out the latest trailer. They just go on to that. As the game's narrative unfolds, players will assume the role of 4 central characters: a young Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, Azuri, who is T'Challa's grandfather, and the World War II era Black Panther, Gabriel Jones, a US soldier and member of the Howling Commandos, and Nanali, Wakandan spy embedded in occupied Paris. So yeah, there's a few things that really tick it off for me. Is one, generationally different. So we're set in the 1940s, of course, during the height of war, occupied Paris. So we've got like an era where technology isn't be all and end all.
Yeah, I think what they've been able to do with it being a video game is go back to the traditional era of Captain America, set in World War II, fighting against Hydra, which is like Nazis. Built into the Nazis and stuff, where that's something it's more difficult in the modern era, because if you want to get like link him up with Iron Man's a very modern character. You kind of have to freeze him in an iceberg, then defrost him in modern times. Mm-hmm. Which works very well in the MCU, but it's nice to be able to go back to Captain America's roots.
Yeah. And aside from like gameplay probably being fun, story being a little bit different from what we're seeing, in terms of Uncanny Valley, I do think Captain America reminds me of the Captain America from the Winter Soldier series. You know, the one who takes up the mantle is like the country's fake Captain America, but he's pretending to be Steve Rogers. The name eludes me. I want to say it now. I can't remember. He's still in the MCU. He's going to go on to be like one of the bad guys, I think, part of the Bad Five. I'm so detached from the MCU at this point. I need to watch some certain parts. But in terms of Black Panther, obviously we know Chadwick Boseman did a terrific performance, but I think Black Panther for me is still such an unknown character. Actually, going back to different generations of the Black Panther role as the King of Wakanda.
It's a different era. It's a different character. Yes, it's Black Panther, but it's not T'Challa. So Absolutely. You're not going to get any Uncanny Valley. Even though I thought the voice acting did sound a bit like Chadwick Boseman, to be honest. The
voice actor, well, it's the like kind of Wakandan accent that they have to that they portray, isn't it? The voice actor's the guy who plays what's the name? I'm so bad with names. I'm either tired or something. Walking Dead. The guy who was the big lion in The Walking Dead. That's the guy who's doing the voice acting for him.
I don't know. I stopped watching The Walking Dead after season 2.
But the biggest thing for me is Amy Hennig, of course, hasn't had a game out for probably a good decade plus now at this point. She was working on that Star Wars title with Project Ragtag over at EA before they closed it. Remember, we got that beautiful cinematic where the person that stepped out in a Tatooine and a TIE fighter flew over. It looked gorgeous and everyone was like hyped. I think it was
Ubisoft killed it. Was it EA or Ubisoft?
EA was Project Ragtag, and then it all got canned because EA seemingly didn't want to focus on single player games. And then they ended up developing Fallen Order. So it worked out for EA in the end in Star Wars. But it proved them absolutely wrong. But I think the talent is here. It's obviously still an unknown quantity in terms of it's a brand new production studio and stuff in terms of Skydance. I do think, however, though, the Unreal Engine has just been showcased off to the best it possibly can do. Remember, we are still getting another Is Captain America, Black Panther.
We're getting
game.
a Black Panther game. This is not the Black Panther
and
game.
an Iron Man game from EA, but this isn't the one from EA. So we're going to get two of them, and you've got to imagine they'll be watching this with like bated breath, going like, "Oh dear, they've done it better than us." Or
I'm surprised that Marvel have been willing to lease out the rights to Black Panther to two different companies around the same time.
Yeah. What's the chance that these come out the same year?
Especially when, like, I get it with something like Midnight Suns, which it's a very different style of game.
Yeah.
But if the game plays in the similar action adventure third person, there's going to be direct comparisons. So it's not ideal for either developer, to be honest. But
I mean, I'm excited. Like, I love me some superhero action games, and I think I enjoyed Marvel's Avengers for what it was, even though the Uncanny Valley stuff aside and the repetitive nature of it and the bad multiplayer.
Me anywhere near as much as it does you.
Yeah, but the story was great in Marvel's Avengers. The stuff with Miss Marvel and stuff was very unique and telling, and it's a shame the game wasn't just more of that. But in terms of this, if this is pure like Uncharted-esque storytelling in an alternate timeline or an older timeline with characters that I've never really had a chance to play as in a video game, I think it could be fantastic. So I'm very, very excited for this one. Coming 2025, announced back in 21, we saw a teaser in 22. We're now in 24 getting a first trailer, so it seems to be on track for probably a back end of 2025 release. So
I could see a gameplay at Game Awards.
Yeah, I could say that.
It feels like a nice fit, and potential. And if they do go quiet for now, Game Awards, here's your gameplay reveal, and we're going to slap a fall 2025 on it.
Absolutely, yeah, it looks good.
And
to
then
me.
next summer, during probably Summer Games Fest, you get the final start and get the final push.
Yeah, and it's not attached to any big publishers either, so it's not beholden to like an EA showcase, a Ubisoft showcase. It can just pick and choose where it goes, and I think either Summer Games Fest or Game Awards would be a perfect crescendo.
It could turn up at a Disney thing though, as well.
That's true. Yeah, Disney have done their like kind of like summer showcases.
D23
is the like
D23,
or Comic Con. They usually drop a lot of stuff for like Comic Con with all like the shows. But it's a good point.
They could drop the same trailer at multiple places, to be honest.
That's true. Get people hyped for it. Although people might worry and think it's a cinematic TV series coming to Disney Plus because the trailer's that good. It's like
that's why if you're doing a Comic-Con thing, you drop gameplay.
Yeah. Be good to see. Good to see. And I tell you what, this game might run really well on, Richie. Pivoting to our second story of the week, the PlayStation 5 Pro seemingly has leaked its specifications online. Sony's unannounced PS5 Pro has been posted online, and the upgrade represents a souped-up version of the console set to launch later this year. According to reports from a couple of people across the industry, there's a couple of reputable places, and they've also been covered and corroborated by Insider Gaming and IGN, so it's pretty legit. As you'd expect, the specs show boosting the PS5 Pro's system memory and GPU. The machine's CPU remains identical to the base PS5, however, but now does boast a high CPU frequency mode, which is said to add about 10% speed increase, albeit with a slight 1% reduction to GPU performance. Blah, blah, blah. Specifications, unfortunately, it's only going to feature a 1 terabyte onboard SSD, so if anyone looking to squeeze more storage out of that internally, they ain't getting that. The memory's been slightly tweaked as well. CPU and teraflops pretty much look on par, as you'd expect from me from a Pro kind of mid-generation step up. The one thing they do focus on is the GPU apparently said to offer PSSR, which is going to be known as the PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution Upscaling, along with other AI-generated accelerating tech. Richie, all this is just technobabble to me. It doesn't really make much sense. All I know is there's going to be a different version of the PS5 that comes out, and it's going to run games better than my current version of my PS5. That sounds good to me. It's one of those things where I would look at it and go, you know what? My PS5's been sat here for a few years now. If Game or somewhere does like a decent trade-in for like pay the difference kind of trade-in, that's something I would possibly look at. Over to you, though. Do we need this? Is it about right? And what do you think in terms of price?
I think it depends how you look at it. From a business point of view, if they're seeing the sales of PS5 kind of plateau a bit, still making sales, but nowhere near as quick. From a business point of view, having a mid-generation refresh to kind of give that spike again. So for someone like you, might go, you know what, I'll trade in my PS5, get a PS5 Pro. give Sony a spike of cash. I don't think it's necessary in terms of a consumer point of view right now, because I don't feel the PS5 is really getting pushed that hard yet.
No, not at all.
To be honest, for third-party games, I don't see a huge difference in quality between PS4 and PS5. Sometimes you get faster frame rates if it's optimized a bit better, but in terms of bear in mind, I'm not playing on a 4K TV, so if you are, you might see that thing. But I don't know. I feel like I'm not convinced that you're going to see a significant jump up in quality by buying it. Because one of the selling points of the PS5 era and the Xbox Series X was 4K, 60 frames per second, ray tracing in some games, all that kind of stuff. And it doesn't feel like we've hit that with the current hardware.
Certainly not. I think for me, the only one was Final Fantasy 16 so far that I would say has pushed the limits of like visuals and gameplay, and that chugged a little bit in parts still. But that was probably just more optimization and such.
So for me, it comes down to cost. It depends how much money you have. If you have a PS5, I think I suspect you're probably going to be okay without upgrading, unless you are at the cutting edge. I must have the most powerful thing going. I've got a massive TV. I've got an awesome sound system that absolutely get the best thing going. I think for the most people, probably not necessary. But depending on the price difference between the 5 and the Pro, if you haven't got already in the ecosystem, you have to. I think it's you weigh up on cost.
Yeah,
which makes more sense than the cost. Because if it's going to be like, I don't know, £100 more, it might be worth considering. It might be enough to lean you there.
Yeah.
The upscaling stuff actually could be really good for things like adding ray tracing. It's PSSR is probably just a rebrand, to be honest, of AMD's. I think it's FSSR. Fidelity Spectral Super Resolution. I might be wrong with the naming of that, but it's a technology that AMD already have in the PC space. So I suspect this is a tweaked version of that same technology that is bespoke to PlayStation, but it'll be built around that.
Yeah,
which is actually really good. It's really, really good. NVIDIA have got an equivalent one as well. They're actually really good. Because they can use I think they use things like the ray tracing cores and the GPU to upscale things in a way that kind of predicts where the frames would be. So you can smooth out, get a lot higher frame rates without really having to render every single frame quicker.
So it's doing it ahead of time.
It's a kind of AI technology.
Yeah, kind of what you get with cloud gaming, where it does all the different alternate. Like if you want to go left to right, it's predicting what you're going to do, and then when that eventually does happen, it's already rendered it ready to go, so it's finished. Yeah. That's interesting. In terms of price and positioning, I think we've already hit that point where this time in the PS4's life cycle, we already had the Pro, I believe, at this point, give or take a few months. So it's timeline wise, yes, but we do need to remember that the PS5 came out during like COVID.
This feels a slower generation, though.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel. PS5 to PS4, it doesn't feel like the PS5 is fully in its stride in terms of the games coming out, where PS4 at this point probably had more than double the high-quality first-party titles.
Yeah, I also remember at this point in the generation, my PS4 was like chugging. Like I remember everyone saying like it sounds like an aircraft taking off. Like when it ran certain games, and when I think about
really pushed to its limits.
Yeah, and when I think of my PS5, I'm like, no, it just kind of sits there, nice and chill. It still gets a little bit warm, naturally, but it never concerns me.
PS5's got better cooling technology than the PS4 ever did, but it still doesn't feel like it's getting pushed to its limits by the developers. Yeah. I think I talked a bit about this with Rob a few weeks ago, where it feels like at the moment developers are more using the extra power to have headroom in terms of the development builds, so they don't have to optimize as much as they probably had to do in previous generations, where the hardware you're running was really a limiting factor. Because I think games have got to a point where they are pretty enough. There's different levels of that, but even a game that doesn't look great is still pretty damn good looking.
Yeah.
And most people are not going to care. So if it's taking that headroom in the hardware, might actually be saving in development costs rather than pushing the quality of the product at the end.
Well, that's it. Any kind of redefinement at this point in a hardware manufacturing cycle is, of course, just trying to maybe cut back on components and trim things down. We already had the Slim that came out last November, just before Christmas, so they've already had like one iteration. This seems like, with it using like the same base PS5, sorry, kind of framework, there is a high chance that this is just like although it's branded differently with the Pro attached to it, it's still probably just another manufacturing slimline thing. They've got the other model going. This is the slightly more powerful one, but they've got it all nailed down where it's becoming more profitable for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you think in terms of the manufacturing for Sony, at the launch of PS5, they basically had 2 production lines. There might be multiple different centers and stuff, but effectively 2. Your PS5 disc version, your PS5 discless version. They got rid of both of them, replaced it with a single PS5 Slim plus a add-on disc drive, and now they're going. So that effectively leaves one like production line open for the PS5 Pro.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if when they made that decision, they already had the PS5 Pro starting to get into manufacture, so they can build up stock.
Yeah. And the PS5 Pro is apparently also going to feature support for a detachable disc drive. So
yeah, it'll be the same disc drive probably if they're smart.
Do you suspect the Pro is going to then have a disc and discless version, or is it just going to go completely?
I think that was probably a mistake, having 2 discrete consoles. I think they've rectified that with the Slim by going, we're going to make one console and one detachable disc drive.
So we could be
looking...
looking...
that same disc drive could probably go for both the Slim and the Pro if they're smart in terms of their manufacturing.
So we could be going into this Christmas season with 2 of the major, like, top-tier consoles. Remember, we're expecting this summer an Xbox, the cylindrical version without a disc drive. So we could be going into this Christmas with the 2 main flagship consoles not having disc drives.
Yeah, 100%. But I think if it's me and I'm Sony, I'm going to sell the PS5 Pro discless. But I'm going to put, if you buy the disc drive at the same time, you get 20% off the cost of the disc drive.
So, Richie, PS4 price. The original PS4 Pro launched at £349 here in the UK, $399 over in the US. Currently, the PS5 Slim model, which is the refined version we got that launched just before Christmas last year, that traditionally retails at $479. However, it is on offer in a lot of different places at about $410 at the moment. So in terms of like comparison wise, it's still more expensive than the Pro was. So what would you eyeball maybe a PS5 Pro? I'm thinking $499.
It's a premium for me. It's a premium product. What was the PS5 again?
Currently, it's RRP.
Not on sale.
$479.
Yeah. $479. I'm thinking close to $600, if not higher. It's a premium product. So they can get away with really gouging you a bit on this because they have the base model there. So you can, if you just want a PlayStation, go buy that one.
Yeah, I mean, remember
the best PlayStation, get your wallet out.
Yeah, I remember at this point when the Pro launched, the base model did have like a price cut of about £100, which brought it right down. Which then your variation was like you can get the Pro for $349 or the PS4 base for $249, and that's what made it like I think they probably sold more bases off the back of that.
I think the world's in a bit of a different place.
We've
seen Sony in recent years push up the price of the console during the generation.
It's the only generation it's gone up, yeah.
So I can't see them cutting the price back.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll hold the price and go, this is going to be 150, probably above.
Yeah,
if not higher. Like,
yeah, I could see.
Realistically, they'll put the price list as high as they feel they can get away with.
Shame.
So I think you're going to look in that £600 to £700 bracket.
It's mad when you look back though. Like just thinking now, like a PS4 Pro for $349 seems like an absolute bargain. But then I'm looking at the current PS5 Slim, $409.99 on the PlayStation Direct storefront. That seems like a bargain for a PS5. Just over £400 for a PS5. Are we warped by inflation that my own brain thinks like that's good, like great value for money?
How much inflation's happened in the last few years is ridiculous when you actually think about, when you actually look into the numbers. It's like, oh, like Freddo's now cost a mortgage instead of 10p.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, I know we joke pre-show about inflation and stuff like that. And the PS5 Pro, and whatever this new Xbox is going to be, in terms of a developer world, they're still like playing with this field of the Series S is still out there. Bear in mind, the Series S is 24999 to buy, which again, if I think 400's a bargain, the Series S is an even bigger bargain. But then if the Pro's stretching developers to that extra level of tech, and now the S, we know the S has got a lot of shit this generation for holding back game development. And we've had a lot of crossover from last gen. Remember, there's a lot of PS4, Xbox One games still being made to this day. We've not left that generation behind yet, and I feel like the whole spectrum of video game consoles, it's so wide now. Wider than it's ever been, arguably. And then throw PC into the mix, and whatever Switch is doing in Switch 2, jumping between generations, doing its own thing.
This is the thing I meant when I said I think it's been a slower generation where, largely because of COVID, the beginning phase of the generation where you're kind of getting people off the PS4 and onto the PS5 has took a long time as third-party publishers who were planning to release a game on the PS4, the development's been pushed longer, so then they've probably had to develop a PS5 version as well for it to make sense. And that cross-generation phase is extended. And then PlayStation done weird stuff with their studios. Let's not get into that in this conversation, but I don't know. I think the S definitely has held things back because the S doesn't feel that much more powerful than a PS4 Pro. So if you're a third-party developer and you want to be on Xbox, you have to have it working on the S. So that's the minimum level of accepted quality. And so if that's your minimum level, the PS5 is a significant jump up above that. I think a lot of developers are probably just turning up the frame rate between that, let's say, the Xbox Series S and the X. So, this is why it doesn't really feel like the PS5 is getting pushed, I think. Oddly enough, the PS5 doesn't feel getting pushed in some ways because of the Series S and what third-party developers are doing because of Microsoft's decision.
Yeah. It's mad in a way, but that's the thing with hardware. It'll always keep ticking over, isn't it? We see it with mobile phones, where no matter if you need it or not, the Samsung, Apple, iPhone, they have to put out another iteration just to kind of keep the marketing beats ticking over in a way. Yeah. And I think, again, I don't think Sony or Xbox or Nintendo need. I mean, Nintendo do, but for other reasons. But it's almost like they don't necessarily want to put out any new hardware, but they almost have to in a way to keep things fresh and ticking over.
It's a business. I think this is more a business decision to get that spike in console sales, which is probably plateauing. You might find later in the generation there might be another iteration of the PS5. You know how Nintendo seem to go every maybe 2 or 3 years bring out a new variant of the console.
OLED.
Yeah, so they brought out the Switch, then they brought out the Switch Lite, then they brought out the OLED. So it's effectively 3 SKUs. They might bring out PlayStation might bring out a fourth
Pro,
maybe a proper Slim, rather than what we're calling the Slim is just effectively the PS5 redesigned slightly.
Going off Apple trends, they'll want to call it the PS5 Max or the PS5 Ultra.
Yeah,
that'll be
the
terminology
to kind of extend the generation and get that spike in sales, or they might just go PS6 and just call the generation early.
Yeah,
it's weird. The next generation you might see a bigger jump if Xbox decides we're not going to do the Series S thing again.
Yeah,
we're just going to go head to head with Sony at the peak of our powers.
Yeah, I don't think I want to see a PS6 until 2030. I think we'll see it a few years earlier than that, but unfortunately,
I actually could go later than that. I have absolutely zero issues with my PS5 in terms of I need to upgrade hardware around my house to get the most of the console. I don't have a 4K screen to plug my. So there's other hardware I need to upgrade before I even care about a PS6.
But we'll have to wait to find out more on that one, as it's rumoured to be coming this holiday season. So it looks like Xbox, PlayStation, and possibly even Nintendo Switch are going to duke it out this Christmas. Moving on to our next story of the week, we got a decent drop on Game Pass news. Microsoft like to keep us in the loop with new games that are coming, and we got a nice list of titles drop. I'll just run through the list normally, and then we'll pick out our favourites. So we've got Formula 1 23 coming to cloud only, which I think is a licensing reason why it's not coming to console and cloud. The Quarry from Supermassive, makers of Until Dawn and such, the cloud and console. We've got Evil West coming to cloud and console and PC, which is the third-person, I was going to say cowboy, I guess it is cowboy shooter.
Did you play that?
No, but I have installed it. I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Hot Wheels 2 Unleashed, open roads, super hot mind-controlled elite.
Super hot.
Ark Survival Ascended, which is the kind of remaster of the Ark Survival. Diablo 4 coming to console and PC, not cloud. And then we've got Terra Invicta coming to PC as well. So a couple of big games coming out to a combination of console and PC, coming across other titles. Richie, over to you. What are your top picks of this month?
I think the biggest pick is got to be Diablo 4. I think by far of this list, it's the biggest title. I'm not a huge Diablo fan. I like Diablo, but I play through once the story and then I bounce out, which is why wasn't that bothered about getting it on release. Where Diablo tend to be, it's like the kind of cycle of loop where you kind of play through the story, then you go back and play through again on a harder mode, and you play through again on a harder mode, and so on, rinse and repeat until like you get to the end game content.
So have you actually played Diablo before? Like,
I haven't played Diablo 4. I did play Diablo 3 back when it first launched. And as I do with most things like Diablo stuff, I will play through the story once because I'm such a story gamer. I was like, okay, I've played the story, enjoyed that, I'm now done. Where the gameplay loop doesn't dig its teeth into me properly, where, like, you know, that loop of constantly needing better gear so you can defeat harder enemies, so you can get better gear so you can defeat harder enemies.
Yeah.
That doesn't appeal to me the way it used to. So with Diablo 3, I think that's probably at the point when I was like moving away from that start, like back from a game as a service era. It's like I'm kind of done with that. So I think it could be a good stream actually for being on console as well. We could jump and see what's it all about. See how, because it did get lauded on release, but then I think the first few patches kind of put in a bit of controversy, which I think kicked it away from the Game of the Year conversation.
Yeah, give it a.
But it'd be interesting to see, like, just give it a fair shake, as two people are not massive into Diablo, to see how it stands up.
Yeah, I had a brief moment where I was like, do I get Diablo in the summer, when I think there was like a lull in games to play last year and it was getting that much hype. I was like, do I play Diablo? Same with Baldur's Gate. And then I was like, nah, and I held off because they're not my type of games. But yeah, great addition to the list. We knew, this is one of the first ones to come as part of the Activision Blizzard King merger as well, so we've got that. The reason it's not coming to cloud is because of said merger. So we know Ubisoft basically control the rights to distribution of cloud content across Europe, so hence it's not going straight into cloud. Hopefully that'll be remedied later on. Ubisoft, get on it. But in terms of other titles, we've got The Quarry is also coming, which I think is another big title. I feel like it's been on Game Pass before, The Quarry, or maybe PlayStation Plus.
I think so.
It's one of them like titles that it didn't maybe do as well as they were hoping, so they try and broker a deal with a subscription service instead to get it up there. But we know The Quarry's great. It's from Supermassive, so Until Dawn-esque. The one I wanted to point out was Evil West, because that's the one that a couple of people in our Discord chat have been saying that it's super fun. It's just daft, like cowboy menace taking on basically bloodthirsty monsters in a third-person cover shooter mechanic almost. It looks like The Division meets cowboy Monster Hunter, like Van Helsing style. I think it's about 11 hours to complete, 21 hours to get the platinum. So I did look at that last night thinking like, ooh, one playthrough. Title. Yeah, a couple of collectibles to get, one playthrough on evil difficulty mode. It is co-op as well, actually, Richie. So there might possibly be something in there for us to do. But overall, like these, I didn't mention the dates, sorry, for these that are coming out. The Quarry's March 20th. Evil West is March 21st. It was on PlayStation Plus a few months back. That's why I've got it. So you probably have it as well, actually. Diablo is March 28th. Terra Invicta is March 26th. Hot Wheels 2, which we might do on the channel as well if we kind of break away from our single-player stories that we've been doing at the moment and maybe look at just some stuff with the community. Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 is coming March 28th, which again is only a week away. Ark Survival Ascended is quite a big one as well, because remember they shut down the old servers for the original Ark. That always has a following, kicking off and going on over there. Formula 1 and Super Hot. Good list of games for Game Pass. It's actually had a solid... Remember, the month already got off to a good start for Game Pass with quite a lot of big titles, so it's overall been quite solid. Just keep ticking away. Let's move away from games that are coming, though, into games that are here, because we've got a busy week for review games, and in a weird way, there's 3 games that all dropped, and I don't think we're going to play any of them in a weird twist of events. But where should we start? Let's go with Rise of the Ronin, the PlayStation exclusive, made by Team Ninja, so think Nioh 2 and Wolong Fallen Dynasty ilk. £70, Richie. March 22nd it launched, so only launched yesterday at the time of recording. Looking at some early reviews, GameSpot give it a 7 out of 10. It's not without some flaws, but I finished Rise of the Ronin with much left to do, and even after 50 hours, I want to head back in and see what I missed and attempt to change history. The parts of the game that worked out were more balanced than its weaker elements, and while it took a while to find the rhythm of Rise of the Ronin's combat, its speed and complexity and intensity make for some phenomenal fights and always feel great to win. Rise of the Ronin is a game that might take a bit to get good, but the commitment is worth it. Eurogamer gave it a 4 out of 5, saying, as a Sony published release, Ronin isn't quite Team Ninja's Elden Ring, even if it does evolve the Nioh-like formula. With the help of existing open-world formulae, still, there's been a great to witness the Japanese renaissance of games over the past few years, and there's something special about seeing a Japanese developer stepping up to reclaim the AAA open-world samurai game for itself. Noisy Pixel give it an 8 out of 10, Games Radar give it 3.5 out of 5, and IGN, to wrap out, give it a 7 out of 10, saying Rise of Ronin is excellent when it has the courage to believe in itself and lean into its challenging, rewarding fighting. Too often, however, it feels stuck in indecision, torn between what it wants to be and what it feels like it's expected to be, and it's not even the best samurai game can overcome. So overall, you're talking 7s and 8s for Rise of the Ronin?
Yeah. Basically, I'm reading this as, it's not bad by any stretch of imagination. If you pick it up, you're going to have a good time. But for that price point, I think I'd rather just replay Ghost of Tsushima. It's always going to go up against Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, it's got that
as something that's come after. You expect to be at least on par.
It's got that Days Gone stink on it, where Days Gone came out
quite as good as you want it to be.
Yeah, Days Gone and The Last of Us, everyone remember at the time going like, well, why would Sony publish another basically zombie game? Even though The Last of Us and Days Gone are very, very different games. From a marketing standpoint, a visual standpoint, I can't help look at this and go, I'd rather it was Ghost of Tsushima 2. Or like you said, why would I not just go play Ghost Director's Cut if I want that fix? And there's a little voice in my head saying, Chris, Assassin's Creed Red is probably coming out later this year, which is going to be a 100-hour plus massive open world Japanese samurai style game.
Yeah, and my other thing is, this feels like PlayStation Plus fodder for next year.
Fodder.
It feels like one of them where it's not doing what they want it to do now, but next year come to PlayStation Plus. It just feels that in that destined, we'll get our hands on this eventually. And because it doesn't feel like a must-play now. And to be honest, looking at the gameplay, it looks a bit Soulsy, which is deterrent for me.
There is 3 difficulties, I will say. I did read and watch some reviews, and essentially it says there's like an easy mode, a middle, and a hard, if you're looking for a better entry. And I've seen a lot of reviews say, actually, if you're not into the Souls-type games, there is like a parry and block system, but just like you would expect in Ghost of Tsushima, there's the stances, which are very, very simple. They do echo a lot of Ghosts, but they said the traversal and the open world is actually a lot closer to a Ubisoft title. There's a lot of collectibles. There's a lot of kind of like areas to clear out of enemies, like garrisons to sort out. It's not, but they said the traversal, there's a lot of grapple points. You've got the Da Vinci style wings from Assassin's Creed 2. And they said actually getting around is seemingly really fun. The combat is really fun. And surprisingly, reading from a lot of these, it says strong storytelling and slick action. So again, it seems like a game that you'd have a great time with if you want that Japanese samurai itch to be scratched.
Yeah.
If not, maybe hold off for a sale or PlayStation Plus, as you said.
I'm happy to hold off. You mentioned when people compare to the open world from Ubisoft, that always gets me thinking. I actually think the open worlds in Ubisoft are usually one of the weakest parts of their games. When Ubisoft are telling a story, they're actually really good, and that's the things that. This is why I have this love-hate relationship with like Assassin's Creed. The story's amazing. The open world stuff I find bland and boring and just full of just stuff that isn't that particularly interesting. So I hope it's better than a Ubisoft open world. But with the 7s and 8s, it does seem to be falling that category of game where it's like, I'm interested,
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like it's good enough to make me drop 70 quid on it.
Yeah, same. I'm in that place where if I wrap out Banishes and I've got something to play, this is where I pivoted back towards playing my maybe Evil West instead. I'm quite content with like a AA experience.
Yeah.
But I don't want to commit to something that I can't, like, I don't think I'm going to like 100%. But shame for Rise of Ronin, because it's one, I feel like it was written, the turnaround from it being announced to being out has been really, really quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Stellar Blades also got my interest a little bit. Don't know why. I mean, I might know why, but we'll see when that drops in April. But that's Rise of the Ronin. Now, interestingly enough, that's not the only other big game to drop this week. Let us know in the comments if you're interested in Rise of the Ronin or any of the 3 games we're about to talk about, actually. And if you're going to hold off for Assassin's Creed Red, or you'd rather go back to Ghost of Tsushima, or even like going back to Sekiro or something, if you're looking for that kind of like combat style, or Neo or otherwise, do let us know. However, Rise of the Ronin has benefited from not adding microtransactions into it, which we'll get into on our next review slot, which is Dragon's Dogma 2. So this is like the long-awaited sequel to a cult classic. That initially came out to good reviews, sitting at about 87 on Metacritic initially. So Dragon's Dogma 2 is a big open-world RPG. IGN gave it 8 out of 10, saying the real stars of the show, though, are the special monsters like Medusa, which are both incredible to behold but also hectic and unique challenges in their own right. Stumbling across these unprompted wanderings was a top highlight of the open-ended nature of Dragon Dogma's 2 world. That's an odd clip from a review. Reading from Game Informer, gives it a 9 out of 10, saying Dragon's Dogma 2 captures the spirit of the original without sanding down the edges of what made it excellent. Its insistence on open player exploration and discovery, coupled with an ending I will think about for the rest of the year, makes Dragon's Dogma 2 stand out. Makes it a standout game and a worthy successor. Eurogamer gave it a 5 out of 5, so top marks from Eurogamer. I blinked again, it's now 5 AM. As I finally managed to pull myself away from Dragon's Dogma 2, I realised attempting to be an unbiased may no longer be possible, because Dragon's Dogma 2 isn't bothered about appeasing those who had issues with the original game. In fact, it's trying to do the complete opposite. It doubled down on everything that fans of the original game loved, in hopes of catering to its target audience, which just so happens to be me. So, Game Informer 9 out of 10, Eurogamer 5 out of 5, IGN 8 out of 10. So seemingly Dragon's Dogma on a score basis is the one to pick between that and Rise of Ronin, unless you want that Japanese fix right now. Now we'll take this as it is, Richie, before we get into the problematic side of this video game. Out of the two, would you flip a coin and pick Dragon's Dogma, do you think, over Ronin right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Why so?
I don't know, because if you compare the 2 reviews, Rise of Ronin seemed to be like, what was it, like, caught between what it is and what it thinks it should be.
What it wants to be, yeah.
Where Dragon's Dogma seemed to go, well, actually, a lot of people didn't like this about the game, but we don't care about that. We're making this for fans of the series. We know what this game is, and either if you don't like what we're doing, that's fine. Well, it's not for you. It seems to have that more confidence in itself. It's generally reviewing higher. So I think I'd be more inclined to go towards Dragon's Dogma.
Do you think that comes from Rise of the Ronin being a PlayStation exclusive, and it's maybe trying to fit that mold that is a PlayStation exclusive game, whereas Dragon Dogma is an independent dev it's not an independent, is it? It's Capcom.
Yeah. Well, usually I find with PlayStation exclusives, they're more focused in what the game is.
That's what I'm thinking. I wonder if Team Ninja are like,
oh,
we have to make it to Sony's rules, whereas Capcom were like, oh, we just do what we want with it. The original game's that old, no one really has any necessary remembrance for it.
With Rise of Ronin being like a second-party title, because it's not Sony developed, but it's Sony published. Maybe Team Ninja subconsciously were trying to tick boxes that they didn't need to with Rise of the Ronin, and probably trying to make it distinct. They probably had Ghost of Tsushima too much in their mind in some ways.
You can't just copy
when you
Ghost.
Make this distinct. And like Ghost of Tsushima, what was the From Software one? Sekiro, yeah. They probably had them 2 big games in their mind. Like, it has to be distinct from these.
Yeah.
And maybe it just hasn't quite...
Yeah, do it the same, but
figured out, found its own identity.
Copy my homework.
Dragon's Dogma very much feels like it does.
yeah, Dragon's Dogma just commits on what it is, which is an open world RPG with enchanting stories, exciting combat, and a play creation system that always gets the internet abuzz with just some of the creatures. Have you seen some of the cat creatures people are making? I've seen people make like Ian McKellen's Gandalf and basically relive the high fantasy adventures. Yeah. So Dragon's Dogma seemingly the winner in a face-to-face battle, and it's sticking to its guns, as you said. Things like fast travel aren't included. I saw the lead director of the game basically come out and say, if you've got fast travel in your game, it means your game's not interesting enough for people to want to explore the world. Yeah, we've covered that on previous episodes, haven't we?
I think there's different ways of implementing it, and it depends. Sometimes if you're doing things like trophy hunting, collectible, like mopping up, fast travel can be a godsend. I think if the world's I do kind of agree though. If the world's interesting enough, when you're progressing through the game naturally, you shouldn't really be relying on it.
Yeah,
but it's a nice to have to go back, and it gives people an option of how they want to play.
Absolutely. So, in terms of traversal, then, what would you think to a microtransaction that allows you to purchase fast travel in this £70 single player game?
Yeah. That's the big caveat to the microtransactions here is, and I think the biggest problem with it is, they weren't in the review builds. They got added after launch.
Yep.
So all these outlets that we've been reading from,
these 8s and 9s,
were not aware of the microtransactions.
So
that is shit business practice.
Wait. So caveat to that, to be crystal clear, the reviewer packs did have the content for microtransactions in them. So the reviewers that were playing the game didn't have microtransactions in their build of the game. The pack that goes out for press, like the press kit, that did have a whole section dedicated to the microtransactions with the pricing structure, what was available, how many times they could buy. The difference is the reviewers playing the games didn't experience them. So
the people reviewing the game, when they're reviewing the game, playing through, were they aware of
it was
the
in the press kit? Yeah, it was in the press kit.
Okay,
on
so
like
then
a full
that
breakdown.
should have been reflected in the reviews.
Right. So again, for crystal clear for everyone's sake on this one. Yeah. So the game launched on Thursday evening this week, and a previously hidden suite of microtransactions became available for purchase. Things you can buy for the single player include fast travel points, rift crystals for hiring pawns, whatever they are, and buying specialty items, appearance changes and revival consumables, a special camping kit that weighs less than normal ones, and a few other bits and pieces. In response to the microtransactions, Dragon's Dogma 2 is now being review bombed across Steam, with the game currently sitting on mostly negative. So I think the crux of this, Richie, it's similar. We've seen it a couple of times over the last few years of it happen. Microtransactions in single-player games, they kind of pull the rug out from under you. We saw it kill the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War game. We saw it kill Star Wars Battlefront. And even though it's single-player, this is still an element of, if you pay us real money, you can finish the game faster, or you can be stronger, you can be better. Yeah. And we should say you can earn all of these points and purchase these microtransactions using in-game credit by just playing the game. So it's not a case of like there's no way of you getting this fast travel thing at all, unless you spend real money.
It feels like although they put it in the press kit, it feels like they're trying to not let people look at the microtransaction-y stuff. I think it's one of them, if they were a bit more upfront when this game will have microtransactions, but you don't need to play them. If they just owned it rather than trying to hit it, I think this might have come out differently. Because they've allowed the perception to be, you try to hide this stuff from us.
Yeah.
It's bad guy Capcom. Like, microtransactions in single-player games are not necessarily bad. As long as, if you can play the game in a reasonable fashion and it doesn't feel like the game is forcing you to have to buy them, it's a complete option, then it's your money, do with it as you like.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fervour around this has came from nobody really knowing about it until it's launched. So everyone's seen the reviews, going, "Oh, this game looks great," then hearing about microtransactions. But where it's due to play devil's advocate and not defend them, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like the microtransactions have any bearing on you just playing and enjoying the game. Similar to actually like Shadow of War. I completed and platinumed Middle-earth Shadow of War. Didn't pay a penny for microtransactions. It didn't hold me back. I didn't feel like there was an added grind that was made there. but yet the game was received negatively because of it. The flip side, I would say, and you were saying I would just fully embrace the microtransactions and just be up front and center about the honesty piece. Ubisoft do that. Look at the Helix credits in every Assassin's Creed game now. You can get like a unicorn armor skin with special staff and fire armor and all this, and they unabashedly put it in like a full Ubisoft storefront within every Assassin's Creed game for the last 10 years now. It doesn't impact your game. It's just there as an option extra. Have I dabbled in a few?
Key thing.
Yes. Is there an XP? There's an XP boost if I want to grind for it. Yes, but at the same time, and I think what we should always remember and go back to is you don't have to buy these, people.
Yeah, I feel like almost the reviewers have let this game down a bit. Like, if the press kit say it's got this huge list of microtransactions, that should have been brought up more in the reviews and potentially impact the scoring. Or if the reviewers went, you know what, it has this huge list, but I haven't done any of them. I didn't even have access to them at the time I played.
Yeah.
It hasn't impacted the game. I still think the game is this. Then I think you can just go, you know what, I don't care about them. They're there if you want them.
I do think...
It depends as well. There is also that potential for a bit of Capcom being a bit devious. Now, this is complete tinfoil hat territory. Could they tweak the difficulty at times to make it more of a grind after the reviewers got their hands after the review build to force people into feeling it's necessary?
Yeah. Again, these practices, you've got to imagine as a business, they have metrics that show this. Activision did it, remember? Crash Team Racing. An old PlayStation 1 game, not a microtransaction in sight. They remastered it, put it out, looked great, and then after launch, they added microtransactions in and seasonal paid content after the reviews had came out, and it's like, it's shady as shit. A bit.
I actually don't necessarily think Capcom have done anything wrong, but it's almost a naivety about how the industry reacts to microtransactions.
Yeah.
Especially in single-player games, microtransactions are usually considered by a lot of people as the enemy. It goes back to, I still see the whole meme of like how games like you used to buy them, you used to have the full game, then like the puzzle piece taken out and you have to buy that bit separate. You still see them memes through the rounds nowadays, where I don't necessarily think that's the truth anymore, even some of the worst components of microtransactions. It does feel like if you're going to have this sort of these sort of microtransactions and the amount of them, just own it. Just go, this game does have microtransactions. This is what they are. They are not necessary to enjoy the game as the developer intended. They are there if you want them.
Yeah.
And just own it. And then then you're still going to get a lot of people going, oh my God, look at these microtransactions. But a lot of people are not going to be caught off guard as much.
Yeah. Well, it's seemingly not holding back on the sales of the game. It's doing terrific numbers over on Steam. It's reviewed obviously quite well. I think it's arguably Capcom's biggest launch, actually beating out Resident Evil Village. So for a single player title. So win-win for Capcom, it seems, on all fronts. But yeah, I think whichever way this was rolled out, they maybe just need to be more wary and get maybe front and center about these microtransactions and maybe clarify a few things. I know a couple of the articles say we weren't made aware of it from a reviewer standpoint, but I've seen some of these press packs. We've seen a few from Ubisoft, and they are like detail heavy. And I guess it's your job as a journalist to make sure you read through them and highlight points to the public included in your review. But if you play through an entire 50-hour campaign without seeing anything, it could be something to easily overlook and not really think about it. But at the same time, it's one of those things. Moving on from Dragon's Dogma, though, to our final big launch of the week, and that is Princess Peach Showtime. Nintendo have another title out. Reading some reviews from this one, it seems to be getting 7 and 10s. IGN give it a 7 out of 10. Princess Peach Showtime is more closely aligned with Kirby and Yoshi's simple, cheery romps rather than a Mario polished platformer and Luigi's Haunted Mansion titles. There's fun to be found in the Sparkle Theatre as these delightful, simplified takes on some of gaming's most powerful genres are entertaining to blast through. With the whimsical stage play aesthetic, gives Peach's game an identity all to its own. 7 out of 10. GameSpot also gave it a 7 out of 10, saying Peach's Showtime is a friendly, inviting game that makes it easier to digest. Some of the genres work better than others in this format, but none of them are too tricky or off-putting, and most of it will be will come down to personal taste. None of these stages are fleshed out enough to support their own game, but they're inviting for novice gamers to explore a bunch of different game types, with a charming and apparent princess offering her gloved hand to welcome people in. A couple more reviews, 6 out of 10 from The Gamer, and the Washington Post gave it 3 out of 4 stars. Richie, not a game for us. Evidently, Nintendo creating yet another spin-off of the Mario universe. Seemingly, this is Princess Peach going on a very first solo adventure. She goes to the theater. Something happens. There's an evil character. Think Phantom of the Opera at the theater, and each level basically is a genre from theater unto itself. So think like Cowboy Rodeo. Think Shakespearean time, and it's just a puzzle platformer that you go through playing as Peach. And it looks whimsical and fun and very Nintendo, but obviously not for us.
It feels very end of console lifespan kind of games. Like they probably had some leftover ideas from other games. That we need a game to kind of a few more games just to see out till we're ready to announce the next console. Let's take these disparate ideas, find a way of pushing them together, slap a Mario theme, some sort of Mario IP over the top of it without tarnishing Mario itself. We'll produce a very competent game. But it's not going to be like it's not a system seller. It's, you know what, pick it up if you enjoy these sort of games, have fun with it.
Yeah,
but I think realistically, most Nintendo fans are now like, "Where's Switch 2?"
Yeah, it seems one of those titles you could interchange out for pretty much anyone. You could put Kirby in this scenario, you could put Mario in this scenario, and just make it like Mario's trip to the theater. I do appreciate that it's Peach getting her own game for some time. She was a standout character in the Mario movie last summer. And again, I think if my daughter was like a little bit older, like 5, 6, 7-year-old, whatever, and we have a Switch, this would be something that I'd probably get for her to play. It just looks like a little simple puzzle platformer with colourful characters, whimsical worlds, and full of delight. So yeah, an average of 7 to 8 out of 10 seems like a perfectly respectable score for this Switch filler game, if you want to call it that.
I want to point out as well, it's only $49.99.
Perfect.
So it's not a full price £70 game. So I think it does. It's kind of the definition of you get what you pay for. 50 quid for a 7 out of 10 feels about right.
Absolutely. But not for us. Like we said, but between what we're playing, I don't think Princess Peach Showtime is.
Stop teasing me, Nintendo. Give me Switch 2.
Yeah, give us that Switch 2. Could have been a launch game. Right, moving on to the final stories of the week, Richie. We've got some Amazon Luna news, some actual pretty big Amazon Luna news. So let's pause as I introduce you to... Luna Listening, your weekly Amazon Luna podcast where we round up all the cloud gaming and Amazon Luna news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Plays Games, formerly known as Helix Cloud Games, formerly known as Sounds of Stadia. That's right, your podcast preference of choice. It's available there too. It's actually not because we didn't want to pay to keep up 3 episodes of a Luna podcast. But Richie.
Yes.
The Luna Listening podcast.
You can still get on YouTube.
You can. I might actually, the intro might have been in there. If I'm editing the show and I just add it in, surprise everyone, that was our wonderful, expensive animated intro.
Like, had it quietly been behind for this section?
The whole time. Yes, Richie, we've got some news from Amazon Luna, quite big news. GOG Games are teaming up with Amazon Luna to essentially expand the library tenfold, it would seem. So reading from the post that GOG put out on the GOG blog, soon you'll be able to play your favourite games from GOG, like the Witcher series or Cyberpunk 2077, on multiple devices of your choice. We're teaming up with Amazon Luna's cloud gaming service to give you even more ways to enjoy your titles while keeping our mission of DRM-free gaming. Let's dive in and see how it works. And then the blog post goes on to say what exactly is Amazon Luna. For those who don't know, somehow you're on this channel and you don't know what it is. It's a cloud gaming service operated by Amazon. It's available in several countries. Blah, 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 blah. It's cloud gaming. What's in it for you? So as stated earlier, this means we're bringing new ways for you to enjoy your games on multiple devices. Whether your current gaming rig isn't powerful enough to handle the latest releases, you're often away from home and you still want to play, or just sometimes want to change your environment while keep playing. Luna is the perfect solution in all those scenarios. Devices you already own, Luna controller, etc. I'll trim this down a little bit. How does it work from a DRM-free aspect? So now that's the best part. On Luna, you'll be able to play every game that you already own on GOG, in brackets, and that is also available on Luna. That's absolutely no requirement to purchase anything twice. If you bought it once on our platform, it's yours as always. That's the DRM-free element. Moreover, it works both ways. You'll be able to buy games that are available on GOG's Luna client, and they'll go straight into your GOG library. In other words, buying games on GOG or directly via Luna will give you the best of both worlds. Enjoy them on the cloud gaming platform, as well as offline via installers such as the GOG Galaxy, and all your DRM benefits of owning the game on GOG will still be there. You'll just have more ways to play your favourite titles. Cloud saves achievements will also still work with Luna, so don't worry about splitting your progress. So you've got cross-save, essentially. So what's next? If that sounds like something you'd be interested in, head over to the website and learn more about the cloud gaming service. Then it directs you towards Luna. And there's also a separate website, which you've put the link in the doc to, Richie, of Luna basically saying to developers, if you want your games to be available through Luna, fill out a quick submission form, get it over to us. You don't need to do anything as a dev. You just need to let us know you're okay for it to happen, and you'll get some additional revenue potentially from your games. Richie, just when we thought Amazon Luna was dead now, it celebrated its second anniversary birthday at the beginning of this month. Didn't even acknowledge it themselves. Didn't tweet about it, didn't post about it, didn't do any celebrations. Like, even Google Stadia, to their credit, celebrated their birthday, their anniversary. We did. Luna, this is huge news, right, in terms of just expanding the library, but talk to me about how it works, because I'm a little bit confused with this whole GOG thing and DRM. Like, I get it to a degree, but my underlying question is, so can I play everything? Because that little bracket that says has to be available on Luna as well. What does that mean?
So my understanding is if you buy a game on GOG, it's DRM free, which means that you can effectively have access to the game. You don't have to play it via GOG. Where if you buy a game on Steam, you have to effectively use the Steam client to access the game. GOG just means you can download the game; it's yours to do what the hell you like with it. Boot it into Steam if you want, whatever. Because the PC is a bit more of an open ecosystem than like a traditional console. So it's equivalent of. You could see almost the equivalent of buying an Xbox game and then playing it on PlayStation. You kind of have that thing. However, because Luna is its own platform in its own right, it does feel like they need developers or publishers' permission to put the game over there, which is why there's like an opt-in form that developers have via GOG, which seems to be very, very quick submission form. You got basically a publisher goes, yes, we're happy for our game to be playable on Luna via GOG, because the game's already on GOG.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's now there. It's no extra builds, no extra work for the developer publisher. It's just form gets thing. Probably GOG and Luna review it. Go there you go. It's in the storefront.
Absolutely, and I guess that prevents. Was it GeForce Now or Boostroid where they had loads of games initially, and then loads of them got pulled because of this like licensing term agreement with the devs or publishers?
That's probably what the form's there for, to avoid any kind of legal stuff. Mm-hmm. Because it feels like if it's DRM free, you should be able to just boot it straight into Luna. Yeah. But again, it was GeForce Now not being a storefront. Mm-hmm. A lot of developers and publishers really took issue with that, and it's probably just let's just be careful here, because GOG is not Nvidia. They nowhere near the size, don't have the same like capacity to fight off all the legal battles potentially. Let's just put an opt-in form there. Developers who are already publishing on GOG can just go, yes, you can put our game there, and I'll turn up. Yeah. So it's hard to know how big this will be for Luna. I think it's good, very good news for Luna. Well, but it really depends how many games are allowed over.
Well, this is my
question. I think a lot of small devs will go, yeah. Get my game wherever I want. It's cost me no extra effort, and now I'm on a different storefront.
Well, this is my question of like just the tech behind how it all works. If I look at the GOG storefront now, it has like 9,000 plus games. So in theory, if these devs opt in, Luna should have 9,000 plus games all of a sudden, right? Out of nowhere. That's what they're saying. So big titles like which they talk about in their blog posts, like Cyberpunk and the Witcher series. Now GOG is a Polish-based company, right? So no surprise that they're leaning into CD Projekt Red for, I guess, localized support. They
probably have a relationship there.
Yeah. So this storefront also has Baldur's Gate on there, the original 2 and 3, God of War. I'm guessing I ain't going to be playing God of War on Luna.
Yeah, see, this is where I think Sony might hold the rights to, like, the legal rights to publishing God of War on cloud, which might prevent, although they're quite happy for it to be on GOG, because that's technically PC.
Yeah.
Cloud is considered to be a different style of platform to console and PC.
Yeah.
So Sony hold the rights tight for that. They might not allow it. So I wouldn't expect God of War to come to Luna.
Mm-hmm. There's also
Robocop, Rogue City, I would.
There's also Fallout, Skyrim, Hellblade, all Xbox owned now. Like
that's another one. Will Microsoft be playing ball?
But they were because of the AKB stuff, right?
Yeah, but this
ABK?
This is a new. This feels completely separate. Like they don't necessarily have. I don't know the terminology in the legal stuff. They might not have to do it. So then they might go. You know what? We're not going to allow our first party titles on Luna via GOG because it's driving people away from Game Pass, which is a direct competitor in this front.
Yeah. This is where I need to see how it's going to play out, because you've got all sorts of games on GOG, but that's all well and good when GOG's just its own storefront with its own launcher on PC. When you're putting it onto a platform that essentially now competes with xCloud and PlayStation Cloud Gaming and GeForce Now and Boostroid and stuff like that, I start to question maybe what the exact thing is. Now, my only game, I don't know why I've got it, that I own on GOG is Wolfenstein The New Order. I don't know why that is. I don't know how many games you've got on GOG, but essentially in terms of Amazon Luna, then if they can get this right, this opens the door for without sounding too harsh, people playing. I mean, ideally, if they get these games, they could be getting. I mean, does GOG get games day and date, like launch?
Sometimes, yeah.
So then in theory, Luna should be getting all the Ubisoft titles because of the Ubisoft Connect Plus agreement, on top of hopefully some AAA games, which they've not had since ever, really.
Yeah. And the thing is, GOG, because it's DRM free, has a lot of kind of good attitude from the PC space. Because everyone kind of both loves and hates Steam. They love it because it's basically, if you have PC gaming, you've got Steam. Mm-hmm. You basically need it. But with GOG being DRM free and basically give you more rights to the games that you've purchased than you would with Steam.
Yeah.
People do kind of like GOG.
Yeah.
And actually GOG stands for Good Old Games, so they've got their origins in bringing traditional PC games into modern hardware. That's where they got their start. I think there's a lot of people who might be buying old games on GOG might want to look at something like Cyberpunk and go, oh, but my old laptop can't run it. Oh, wait, they have now probably, I could see almost like the good old game, GOG Galaxy is their client. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you get some sort of Luna integration into that, with the Xbox app where you can go and you can now just play through the cloud.
Yeah, yeah.
If you get that level of integration, and it's just booting up via Luna, I think that might be a way to go. And
this is what we've said about Luna right from its inception of having Amazon as well. There's nothing to say if you go and search out Baldur's Gate 3 on Amazon's website, there's the option to buy now, get the physical copy shipped out to you, or play via Luna. Right here, purchase through GOG, but play via Luna if you want to click to play within seconds.
Which could be the solution for me, because I want to play Baldur's Gate 3 on PC, but I don't think my PC is good enough to run it well. So this is why I was very excited for the game on Stadia, because Stadia could give me the full PC experience without having the hardware to do it. Mm-hmm. That is one of the big selling points of Stadia. And if Baldur's Gate 3 comes to Luna, there we go. There's my solution.
That is the key question, though, if it comes. We need to see what this relationship looks like, what it evolves into. But what I would say is the folks over at Amazon Luna, you need to talk clearer about this, because all they've done so far is they've retweeted GOG's post about it. That's it.
You need to get up front with this.
Yeah, this is huge for your platform. In a world where you've had no AAA first-party games outside of Ubisoft launch on your platform for 2 years since the public launch in the US and beyond, this is your next biggest thing, so you need to embrace it and talk about it. Retweeting it with some side-eye emojis and a purple love heart isn't enough for your audience or to grow your audience at all. Stop tweeting about Fortnite. We get it. It's got Rocket League in it now. It's got Guitar Hero in it now. It's got Lego. Great. Stop tweeting about Fortnite and focus on your core audience growth, which is going to be what games, big games, are coming to your platform.
be shouting from the rooftops about every publisher, every developer that lets a game via GOG onto Luna.
Yeah.
You need to be screaming about this, because this could be this could be the resurrection of Amazon Luna. I think it has that level of potential.
Yeah, and seemingly with a deal like this, they're sticking with it. They're trying different things. Clearly their marketing play is not to go out to devs and get them to port games to Luna. That isn't happening. That's not happening.
Let's say hypothetically Baldur's Gate 3 does come to Luna via GOG.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 50 hours into Baldur's Gate 3, you're halfway through the story or something, and then you have to go on a business trip for a week. And so your evenings are just going to be spent in a hotel. Can't bring your gaming rig, but if you just switch over to Luna, job done. Work laptop, there you go. You can, because what they're saying, GOG have actually said, yeah, you can just pick up from where you left off. This is the advantage of DRM-free stuff. It is the same version you're playing from GOG that you will be playing on Luna. It's the same thing. You just, rather than booting it through your PC, you're booting it through a PC owned by Amazon, effectively. And your save theoretically should be there.
Theoretically. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully this isn't one of those announcements where we get it and then it takes 6 more months to actually materialise into anything. You'd like to think it's close, so hopefully we'll see something fresh on that. But that's been it for this week's episode of Luna Listening. Tune in whenever there's any big news and we'll talk about it as part of the GamerGuild podcast. Final few stories, Richie, for this week. Final Fantasy 16, the Rising Tide DLC, has been confirmed. It's coming sooner than we thought. The Rising Tide is due to come out April 18th. You're currently playing Rebirth. Mm-hmm. I finished the DLC for 16 back when it originally launched. I've already bought this because I bought it as part of the bundled expansion pass. It seemingly is just going to include a few more fights, a little bit more story added on. You're going to come across the icon of water in the form of a Leviathan, which I know has got some history in the Final Fantasy genre from my naive Final Fantasy knowledge. The Rising Tide is going to introduce new abilities, locations, side quests, and more. For example, Clive will be able to tame the tides and send his enemies to a watery grave, as he will be able to drown them. And he will be able to summon a sea serpent that's capable of dealing precision strikes. In addition, the Rising Tide introduces a new mode, Chaos Gate, which the developers described as challenging. This mode will task players with fighting through 20 stages, each more difficult than the last. Players can plumb the depths of the virtual underworld, vanquish waves of after wave of internal foes. Only with both strength and strategy will Clive survive the Chaos Gate. This mode can be unlocked after completing the Rising Tide DLC itself, among with other visual improvements and whatnot. I enjoyed the DLC for Echoes of the Fallen, which is obviously available now. You played it as part of your kind of story run. Did you? You ended up getting the platinum, didn't you, in 16?
Yeah, I got the platinum.
Where are we sitting with this DLC then? Now you're mid 70 hours into Rebirth, probably.
I'm basically disinterested, but not because of the content of the DLC. It sounds actually pretty cool. It's because I've moved on from the game. It's too late for me. And that's how I am usually with DLC. I don't like going back to a game 6 months later to play a small snippet, because you get that thing where, like, I'm max level, I can't remember how they played or the mechanics and stuff. I'd rather go play something new and something interesting. Where if this was a standalone thing, like where you're going to go, you know what, you're not going to play as Clive, you're going to start almost at level 1 with a different character, I'd be more inclined. But that's not a reflection of the quality of what they're producing here. That's just on me as a gamer. But I think it sounds cool. So
the Leviathan, what's the crack with this Leviathan? Is it in every Final Fantasy game? Is it part of the mythos? What's the deal with this water beast?
I don't think every game, but he's like Ifrit and Bahamut and stuff. He's a recurring summon.
Right.
So, well, sometimes the summon, sometimes the icons in 10, and this, what were they in 16 called? Not dominance.
Icons?
Icons, yeah. But it's that kind of, it's one of a recurring, basically summonable creature.
Okay. So he's a big, crazy Megazord that's going to show up and fight on your behalf.
Yeah, he's like a big snake dragon thing with a water element.
Cool. So he's a Gyarados, basically.
Yeah, it's Gyarados.
Fair enough. I do like a good Gyarados. Right, that brings us to an end, though, Richie, for this week's episode of the GamerGuild Podcast. Plenty of news to talk about, and as we end every single show with This Day in Video Games, we're recording on March 23rd, so looking at our list, anything stand out for you?
There's actually a few things. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Back in the arcades. Like Street Fighter 2.
Mash that button. 30 years, damn. 1994.
One of the classic games of all time, arguably.
Definitely.
Yeah. You got the original Far Cry.
Ooh. Far Cry didn't really take off till 3 for me. I wasn't really aware of it at all.
But it's the origins of
the
franchise,
of course.
yeah. Spider-Man 2 on the last PSP.
The movie tie-in.
Yeah. For you, Dynasty Warriors 5. Did you play number 5?
Yeah, I've got them all. I played the Empire spin-offs as well, and the Kessen series. I actually just recently rebought Dynasty Warriors 3 from eBay because I had a look through some of my collection just to see where I'm at with it all, and I realised I had the box and the guide, but not the disc. The disc inside was for Dynasty Warriors 5. So somewhere between me and my brother and transit and moving house and growing old and taking discs around your friend's house, I've lost 3. So I had a look on eBay. I had the box in good condition. I had the guide in good condition. It was missing the disc. So I just needed a good copy of the disc. So I got it off eBay for like £3.
Yeah.
Can't argue.
PUBG's on the list.
How long ago was PUBG?
7 years.
7 years already. Damn.
Tomorrow's a good day as well.
Tell me about tomorrow.
March the 24th. You've got the PSP.
Hey, yes. Love me some PSP action.
Yeah. Well, to go with it, the game I'm actually going to be playing next after I finish Rebirth, although not this particular version, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core.
Nice.
Crisis was originally Core. PSP version. It's come to PS5.
Of course,
I'm going to be playing the PS5 version. Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
It's quite a decent...
Another classic. Bloodborne.
Oh, 9 years. As if if Bloodborne turns 10 next year and there isn't a PS5 remaster, I don't know what they're doing over at Sony in terms... Do they not like money? Because Bloodborne didn't even get... You know, like when most games got like a PS5 60 frames boost? Bloodborne didn't even get that.
I suspect it's in a weird licensing thing like The Order. Where, because it's a second-party game...
From Soft,
understanding who owns the licensing, how remasters, remakes of that work, probably too lawyery. You got things like Dark Souls 3, Borderlands Handsome Collection. There's a lot of good stuff in this week.
There is. We actually missed this week. You know, we were talking about The Order. Infamous Second Son had its 10th year anniversary this past week as well, which just as if we've not had Infamous game in 10 years. They've been that focused on Spider-Man games and other superheroes that they're neglecting their own in-house one, which I'd take an Infamous collection. I'd take a Resistance collection.
An Infamous collection could be a cool way of like just refresh the series a bit, get it back onto modern hardware. But I don't think we're seeing an Infamous game till after the current Marvel license runs out, so probably after Wolverine and the Spider-Man games.
Like 20, 30 odd.
I think we might realistically be looking 10 years.
Ship it out. It's such a shame that they're stranded on all platforms. Like, give me a Killzone trilogy, Resistance, and Infamous. They're just stuck on the PS3, which is mad.
Yeah.
You've got these huge franchises that are just stuck. I do need to quickly run and grab. Keep talking.
Yeah, alternatively, what they could do is give that IP to a different developer within the Sony family, because that way you can get it going again while Insomniac focus on the licensed stuff with like Spider-Man, etc. And Chris has just got something really awesome he's going to share with us. So audio views might be worth checking out the video for this.
There's a little bit of audio, but I totally forgot to mention one of my projects this week was I restored my Game Boy Color. Look how small it looks. Just when you mentioned the PSP, I was like, oh, actually, handhelds. I've been dabbling around.
Do you have your phone to hand?
I don't. I have my PSP to hand, but I guess that's also not a great comparison.
Yeah.
For size-wise. I have a kind of Monster. There you go. It's the same colour as well.
It is. It actually is exactly the same shade of blue.
My Game Boy Color. So I hadn't played it in many years, obviously, and I realised that one of the batteries had exploded inside it, and all the...
you left the batteries in.
As a daft, naive child, because it was done, obviously, decades ago at this point. And, they'd exploded and became corrosive, so they'd kind of, like, corroded all of the battery terminal components.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't turn on. So I ordered a pack off eBay with a little tiny Nintendo screwdriver and everything. Took apart it with the screws and stuff, and, we're...
Fully functional? That's awesome.
There you go.
That beat brings back memories.
Oh, it's quite hard. It's actually such a poorly lit screen.
What have you got in there?
Right,
James Bond.
Pac-Man.
Oh, Pac-Man. Yeah.
Pac-Man OG. But yeah, just
What you need to do is find a way to hack it so you can capture.
But it's like, so as soon as I repaired it, screen came on. I was like, oh yes.
And you know what, Capcom? No microtransactions in that game.
No, not at all. But back when Capcom were doing the right by their consumers. But speaking of doing right, Richie, let's round things out and give people back some more time. Thank you very much to everyone who's tuned in, watched this week's show. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you kept in the loop with all of our other great content, like our live streams. Check us out later this week as we wrap up on our playthrough of The Order 1886. Go check out our recent playthrough of Gears of War, the Ultimate Edition. I was going to say 2 then, but we haven't played 2 yet. Banishers Ghosts of New Eden is up for members. There's about 6 hours of content there. Everything here on the channel, there's a massive back catalogue of games to go check out. Thank you to everyone who jumped in our Discord. Thank you for everyone's support. It's been a good show, Richie. I've enjoyed it. And we even had a little mini Luna listening episode in there as well. Yep. So shout out to Amazon Luna. Thank you very much for tuning in, folks. My name has been Chris.
And I have been Richie.
We've been the GamerGuild Podcast. Play wherever makes you happy, everyone. Have a great week. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.